Thanks. Hello, everybody. My name's Will Norman. As somebody said earlier, I am the commish, which is the first time I've heard that and the first time I've been called lots of other things in this role so far, but certainly not that. So thanks, Jeanette. I'm delighted to be here. It's the first month of my new job, and what better place to be here than a walking summit. As John's opening slide showed, walking has been undervalued for too long on the policy agenda and in public conversation. And I think the fact that everybody is here today in this central London location in a big business providing the venue, it shows that's beginning to change. The fact that Jeanette's book has been published in paperback, which means it's selling and it will sell more, please buy it, it's a great read, shows that it's changing. The fact that my job is not just cycling, it's walking and cycling, shows that it's changing. And I want to spend just a couple of minutes today, and I know, here we go. I know time is short, but I just want to think, why is this so important? Why is the walking agenda, is this on? Can I walk around? Yeah. Great. The walking agenda is so important for London, and I think it's important remembering London has an inactivity crisis. Like all major cities and towns around the world, London and the world is facing an inactivity crisis. In London, only 34% of people are physically active, and active travel, as you know, I'm preaching to the choir, is critical in terms of changing that and injecting physical activity and the benefits of physical activity into everyday life. Can we just reflect for a moment why this is important? Why this is important? The health benefits of being physically active are absolutely astonishing. There was a study that I was reading that showed that walking, I'm not talking about any other form of physical activity, walking had well over 100 health benefits, reducing the risk of coronary heart disease, stroke, colon cancer, cholesterol, blood pressure, diabetes. I could go on for a long, long time. I'm not going to read out all 100 benefits. However, walking in your life reduces overall cause mortality by 20%. That means you are 20% less likely to die of these. Obviously not. It doesn't promise immortality, but it reduces. I don't want to be guilty of overselling this too early in my life. Yes, exactly. But it can reduce it. If I could invent a drug that was as effective as walking, I would have a stack of Nobel Prizes up to here, and I would have more money than I knew what to do with. You know, it is that effective. But the benefits are far broader. The benefits are far broader. This is a chart summarizing some research that really looked at the benefits of being active. We've got physical health, but mental health. If you walk for 8 minutes a day, you are 33% less likely to report mental health challenges. For walking 8 minutes a day. So you're beginning to see the effects on mental health, but also in terms of education. Kids who are active do better at school. Their cognitive functioning is improved, and they do better on test scores. It is a critical way of setting people up for success in life by being physically active. So it goes way more beyond physical health. It's forming, we know that being active travel creates social cohesion. It generates social capital. A study in Ireland showed that walkable neighborhoods, living in a walkable neighborhood, you have an 80% higher level of social capital than living in a car-dependent neighborhood. That creates vibrant social communities. It reduces social isolation. We know that social isolation is bad for our health and bad for our health as society. By investing in healthy streets, by investing in this approach, we can really make sure that nobody is excluded from the city. As Jeanette said, this is great for vibrant local economies as well. And she said, cars don't spend, people do. In London, people spend 65% more in shops than people who drive cars. People who are walking spend 65% more in shops than local cars. It also helps transform local high streets. Recent research that isn't published yet, so you are one of the first early audiences to hear this, shows that if you transform that neighborhood into and that public realm transformation that generates walking and cycling, you have a 75% fall in vacant properties. This is transforming things on a major scale. Look at this building. This building is wonderful, but it's temporary. Norman Foster is building a wonderful new building for Bloomberg just up the road. Talking to the managing director here yesterday, he was saying how important it is that there are people walking and cycling, and that idea of an active environment for the employees is critical, both for the productivity of the workforce, but also attracting the right people to come and work here. It is part of business. It is changing that conversation. So it's far more than health. But if walking is so good, if being active has so many benefits, and yet only 34% of people in London are active, which is a pattern that translates across the UK, that means 66% of people are not getting these benefits. And that isn't fair. That isn't right, and it isn't fair, which is why fairness also sits at the heart of the Healthy Streets agenda. Transport is critical in addressing the inequalities in London, but we also have to recognise the inequalities that exist within our transport system. We have relatively high levels of sustainable mix of transport. We've got high levels of walking, cycling is increasing. But 36% of trips are still made by motor vehicles and cars. Vans and lorries are increasing on our streets. We know that high levels of traffic have a negative impact on the city, but it has a more negative impact, disproportionate impact on those most vulnerable and those most disadvantaged. Air pollution, crime, traffic noise, traffic dangers, injuries, crimes fall much more disproportionate on those more vulnerable road users and those more vulnerable communities. The Active Health Streets approach recognises and seeks to address these inequalities in the transport system. And I just want to, I know, John, I'm short of time, very quickly, I want to just provide a quick photo on why this is. Look at this street. I was in the street a couple of weeks ago, talking to an old lady she was 80 years old, lived on the other side of this street. She, for years, had crossed over the road, started walking in a beautiful local park, stunning local park, and had been walking there for years. As she had got older and her mobility had decreased, she no longer felt confident in crossing the road because of the traffic and was therefore excluded from walking around that park, and that had a detrimental effect on her life. Look at it. If you're walking along there with a buggy, in a wheelchair, with a walking frame, that is very difficult. Nobody should be prevented from walking in our city because of the way our streets are designed and managed. And unfortunately, the lady I met is not alone. 65% of disabled Londoners consider the condition of the pavements to be a barrier to walking. 43% certainly that obstacles on pavements such as signage, advertising boards are a barrier as well. What we want to see is our healthy routes, our livable neighbourhoods, our investment in the transport infrastructure to transform this. People on foot need to feel like they're being prioritised. We need to make the streets feeling safe. We need to make sure that people can walk in environments they feel valued and loved. For me, I think the key test is thinking about 8-year-olds and 80-year-olds. If the streets are designed for 8-year-olds and 80-year-olds, the children feel that they can play and walk around and play and cycle and those things, and if older people feel that they're equipped to have independent travel, then that's a success then that for me is success. We know that walking is the most democratic form of transport. Women, men, whatever your background, if you're young and old, most journeys start with a walk. We know the benefits there. We know the benefits are long-lasting. But for too long, for too long, walking has been in the shadows, and it's time for that to change. As Val said, we have the leadership, but we also have the potential. You look at London, it is the most exciting city on earth. Sorry, Jeanette, sorry, Seth. It is the most exciting city on earth to walk around. It has the heritage, it has the culture, it has the music, it has the architecture, as do so many towns and cities across the UK. We have the potential to explore. Walking, I said yesterday, is not pedestrian. It is exciting. It is the way to explore a city and get the most out of the city. We need to make it sexy. We need to make it part of a public conversation. And I think that this conference is the beginning of that. I look really forward working together, government, business, communities, advocates coming together to push this, working and walking together across cities. Globally, with New York, with Paris, with the exciting things that are going on around the world, but also across the UK. An active city is a competitive city. We are increasingly in a global competition around the world. We welcome that competition. It pushes it harder, it pushes it further. Sorry to say it, London's going to win, but that's the challenge for everybody going forward. So thank you very much.